Today you're going to look at how to divide decimals. There are important parts to look at first before we go into the actual operation of division, and that is looking at the different parts of a division problem. There are three main parts, and I'm sure most of you already know that the answer to a division problem is called a quotient. That is what we use to call the answer to a division, like product is the answer to a multiplication problem, sum, difference for addition and subtraction. The other two names are probably names that you've heard of. Maybe you don't remember exactly, but I'm sure you've heard them before. The number that is inside the division box or inside the house, that word is called the dividend. And the one on the outside is called the divisor. So the divisor is going to be telling the dividend how many parts to break up into. And the dividend is the big part that is going to be broken down by how many parts the divisor tells it to. So those are the different parts of a division problem, and I wanted to begin with that because I'm going to be using those words, quotient and divisor and dividend. So if you're not familiar with those words, try to use them more and more, and that way you can be more accustomed to that vocabulary. So we're going to start by looking at a division problem that does not have a decimal in the divisor. And if there is not a decimal in the divisor, like it says right up here, not a decimal in the divisor, those are the ones where all you have to do is pull your decimal up and divide as normal. So the first thing I'm going to do in this problem is I'm going to rewrite it. The 3 and 69 hundredths is the dividend. It's the one that goes inside. And the 4 is the divisor. So if you notice, there is not a decimal in that divisor. So what this tells me to do is I'm going to pull my decimal up into my quotient, and I'm going to divide like normal. 4 cannot go into 3, goes in there 0 times, but 4 can go into 36 exactly 9 times. 9 times 4 is 36. I'm going to subtract and get 0, and I'm going to bring down that 9. 4 can go into 9 exactly 2 times. Subtract and I get 1. Here I'm going to add a 0, bring it down. 4 can go into 10, again 2 times. Subtract and I'm going to get 2. I'm going to add one more 0, bring it down, and 4 goes into 20 5 times. And now this problem is completed. So our answer here is 0.9225, or the correct way to say that would be 9,225 ten-thousandths. So we've looked at the different parts of a division problem, and we've looked at doing a division problem when there was not a decimal in the divisor. So let's look at one when there is a decimal in your divisor. So if you notice at the top, it gives you a little bit of notes that if there is a decimal in your divisor, you must move it back to the end of that number, and then also move the same amount of spaces in your dividend. So let's see what this looks like. I'm going to start by rewriting this problem. So 6 and 45 hundredths goes inside, and 1 and 2 tenths goes outside. And you notice right here, I do have that decimal in the divisor, so I'm just going to move it back and make that number now into a 12. But I also have to move it the same amount of spaces in my dividend. So since I moved it 1 space, I'm going to move this one back also. So my decimal is now in between the 4 and the 5. Now I'm going to just move it up and divide as if this now was 12 into 64 and 5/10. That's essentially what we've made this number into. So from here, we're going to divide as normal. I'm going to pull that decimal up. And 12 can go into 64 5 times. That leaves me with 60. Subtract, which is 4. Bring down your 5. 12 can go into 45 3 times, which would be 36. Subtract, and we would end up with 9. Add a 0. Bring that 0 down. 12 can go into 90 7 times, which is 84. Subtract, we get 6. I'm going to add another 0, and 12 goes into 60 exactly 5 times. And I ran out of room. Luckily, that is our final answer, so we end up with 5 and 375 thousandths. So you just want to be careful about that decimal point, just making sure you move it over the right amount of places and that you do place it in your quotient.